How is it rocking, Dwayne Nation? Stay here because we are just about to get underway. In the meantime, please like, comment, and subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. We put out weekly sports content, and we want to continue to build up Dwayne Nation and the brand that is Dwayne Sports. Thank you all, and enjoy. Welcome in, Dwayne Nation. This is your host, Justin Pies, alongside Genoa Agudelo, and we're discussing Week 7 and takeaways that we have from all the games we saw, 15 from Thursday to Monday night. Top relevant takeaways that we think you need to know for your Week 8 and for the future, for the rest of the season for fantasy football and NFL knowledge. But before we dive into all that, Genoa, how you doing, man?
Yo, Dwayne Nation. It's so good to be here tonight here, Justin. It's good to see you, my brother. Crazy week in the NFL. And I'm excited to kind of discuss our takeaways and our thoughts as we kind of draw away from week 7 and on our way to week 8.
Yeah, man, and we have some pretty interesting takeaways to discuss, and I'll start us off real quickly off at the top. And I think it's clear that Joe Mixon might just be the best player in fantasy football. I don't think it's an overreaction to say that. In the 3 full games that he's played, he has been the clear RB1 in fantasy football by a pretty solid margin. And the fact that we've seen kind of this offensive passing game struggle, unlike what we think we'd see heading into this season, Joe Mixon has really showed us that age is just a number, and he has been phenomenal. And as I mentioned, in every single game that he has been a part of, and I just think it's not going to change as long as this man is healthy. Knock on wood, he stays healthy. He's got the Colts coming up this week. He does have a tough stretch of 2 matchups with the Jets and the Lions, but then he gets Dallas. You got Jacksonville, Miami. So he's got good matchups down the line, but I just think he's just about matchup proof. And the Texans realize how important he is to this offense. We kind of see a change to me. We see this offense kind of be much more successful and much more progressive every single drive that he is on the field. With those games with Cam Akers and Dario Gumbawale, it just wasn't. It was stagnant. But Mixon brings a new edge to this offense, and I think with how valuable the running back positions is, he's just about the most valuable one out of all of them.
Wow, we're looking at both takes here, Justin. I do think that Justin Jefferson and Derrick Henry would like to have a word with that take there, Justin, as they are also one of the best fantasy players so far this year. I'm glad to see Mixon back from that injury early this year and kind of leading this Texans. He had a great game, phenomenal game in Green Bay. Looked just about one of the best running backs in the league. So definitely like it there. He has a great matchup against the Colts at home. And I do think the Texans are going to need to get that running game going early. And Joe Mixon's going to get all those goal line carries. Earlier last week, I believe Cam Akers was traded back to Minnesota. So that's really the only threat. I love my guy Dameon Pierce, but I do think that he's still being developed in that Texans backfield, in that Texans doghouse. So Joe Mixon, no worries there going forward. He'll have a great rest of the season as long as he's healthy. For me, Justin, is what we saw in London. I think that Tank Bigsby should be the guy going forward in Jacksonville, regardless of if Travis Etienne plays or not. In fact, I'm going to go an extra step, Justin, as to say that I think Travis Etienne should be traded somewhere where they need a running back. Obviously we like Minnesota, but Aaron Jones gets injured. He gets dinged up in there. I know they just traded for Akers, like I just mentioned. But maybe Etienne could fit in Minnesota. He could fit in Denver. Obviously, Javonte Williams had a great game on Thursday. He could even fit in San Francisco. Jordan Mason was a little questionable this week, and McCaffrey's still probably going to be out. There's a lot of teams that I feel like Etienne could fit better on. Maybe like a team like possibly like the Cincinnati Bengals. Zach Moss has struggled. Obviously, Brown has been pretty good, but I do think they need a more solidified back. Or maybe Etienne can go to New England, a team that is not confident in the running back of Ramondre Stevenson. He hasn't played, and Gibson struggled. So I do think that maybe Etienne could have flown home with New England instead of Jacksonville. Obviously, that's a conference rival there, but I do think, or maybe even Dallas. So Etienne isn't really that guy in Jacksonville. He doesn't fit that offense. I do think that Tanks Bigsby is the guy that they should rely on going forward. He had a great game, over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. And if they're going to win football games, Justin, in Jacksonville, if Doug Peterson wants to keep his job, he has to understand that maybe Etienne is not his guy. He's more of a power guy. He's more of a power rushing kind of team. And looking at Jacksonville in their wins this year, Travis Etienne, he didn't do much. He hasn't done much in both their victories this year. So you definitely have to kind of look towards Tanks Bigsby as being their guy. And not to mention, my last take is in their 2 victories, they beat New England. You know what he did in that game. But their win against Indianapolis, Tanks Bigsby had 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. He had a game high and 65-yard rush. So definitely Jacksonville has to kind of move forward with Tanks Bigsby if they want to win football games, because I do think that Tanks Bigsby is better than Travis Etienne.
I mean we're keeping it up with pretty hot takes here. I mean, you back it up with really good evidence, and the fact that I think you bring up an interesting proposition that Jacksonville being a team that's 2-5, they could possibly be on the trade market for a lot of their players. Maybe Christian Kirk, I've heard kind of in the rumor mill, and then of course ETN. I think maybe Doug Peterson might have somewhat of a need to keep ETN because I think that was his first year as the Jacksonville head coach, and he drafted him in the first round. I think, or it could be his second year in Jacksonville.
I think he missed his first year with
okay,
Urban Meyer.
Okay. Right. Okay, you're right. So, but it's kind of a guy that, Peterson has had since he started in Jacksonville. And I think maybe if Peterson and the Jaguars continue to lose games, Peterson would get fired and the team can realize, hey, maybe Bigsby is the guy. Because Peterson already came out and said, ETN is our RB1 still and everything like that. But hey, I agree with you. Their 2 wins, it's clear evidence, maybe a little bit of a pattern that, hey, we win games when Bigsby is getting the touches that he deserves. So it's worth it. Yeah, what do you think?
I would just say Etienne would be pretty nice in Dallas there, Justin. I think that's possibly what they would need. He's better than Zeke. He's better than Dowdle.
Oh, yeah.
Dowdle could be that power guy, and Etienne could be that speed guy.
I would love that. Dallas and Travis Etienne. That's an interesting combination there. If you get that right, we'll make sure to notice that on the show. But that's super cool. Moving to my second takeaway, and I think David Njoku might just be the most consistent tight end rest of season in fantasy football. Obviously, in this game now, first game without Amari Cooper, and he got 14 targets. Was a top 3 tight end on the week.
Yeah.
So he was phenomenal in this game against the Bengals, and I just think that the rest of the season it's going to be him. Nick Chubb is going to get more and more touches out of the backfield, and then maybe Cedric Tillman. But even with the emergence of Tillman this past week, Njoku's the clear first read target in this offense, and I think Winston's going to love to target him, or DTR, whoever we get to see start at quarterback for the Browns. And I think most of their games they're going to be behind, and we're just going to see them pepper David Njoku with targets close to the line of scrimmage. So PPR leagues rejoice for David Njoku. I think he's going to get a ton of catches. Maybe not the yardage totals, but I think he'll be a favorite target too in the red zone. He led the team in red zone targets this week. So I think Njoku is going to be great. And I know in a few of my leagues I actually held on to him because I was expecting it to happen at some point. And I think this is the starting off point where Njoku just starts to be a guy that's a set and forget it start every week.
Yeah, Justin, I feel like, obviously with the unfortunate news that Deshaun Watson will definitely miss the rest of the year with the torn ACL or Achilles. I think that unfortunately for Deshaun Watson, but for the news to the Browns, kind of team that they might be heading towards the right direction. They just got back Nick Chubb. And I do think that, looking in their past few years since they acquired Deshaun Watson, they have been better without Deshaun Watson, Justin. Obviously, last year, everybody knows the story. Deshaun Watson wasn't able to finish the year. Here comes in future Hall of Famer Joe Flacco. And Njoku finishes as what? We're top 5 tight end, was winning fantasy championships, turned Amari Cooper into a wide receiver one. I remember Amari Cooper had 200 yards against my beloved Texans. And, looking into 2 years back, when it was Brissett at quarterback, Njoku still was third on the team in receiving yards. And this offense could potentially kind of be trending the right direction without Deshaun Watson. They've never been good with Deshaun Watson. It's weird that Cleveland's been good with their backup quarterbacks. They've been able to win games. They've been able to, make the playoffs without Deshaun Watson. They've even, won their. I think they won their what? No, I don't think they won a division that year. It was Pittsburgh, but they were still able to make playoffs, win football games, score a ton of points. And I do think that if it's Jameis Winston at quarterback, I do think that David Njoku is most definitely a more consistent tight end that could finish. Really, we're thinking top 5, top 6 there, Justin.
For sure.
But if it's Thompson at quarterback, I'm not really sure because he's more of a running quarterback than passing. So that's my only concern with Njoku. But other than that, he's a clear alpha as far as pass catcher in Cleveland. So I definitely like Njoku there.
Yeah. And what was I going to say with that? Actually, I think I was thinking about the next thing we're talking about. But go ahead, take it for your next take.
My next take, well, let's see. This team had a rough outing Sunday night in Pittsburgh. But with the Jets, their offense, I know Davante Adams only had 30 yards there. I think Garrett Wilson was kind of over 50, 55 receiving yards. They didn't have the best game possible. But I do have a lot of faith in this Jets offense going forward. They only scored 15 points, and Rodgers was still able to have a pretty good fantasy game. So was Breece Hall. And I think that this offense is trending towards the right direction. They do go to New England this week, this upcoming week. And I think that's going to be a game that Adams and Garrett Wilson kind of get back on track with Rodgers and Justin. I do believe they're 2-4 now. And the next couple weeks, I do think they're going to take off. On Halloween night, they play my beloved Texans. And our secondary is struggling just a tad bit there, Justin. And so I do feel like Davante Adams at that point, a week from this Thursday, will be in much more, shape, condition. He'll be in, way more in tune with Aaron Rodgers. They do get a potential shootout at Arizona on November the 10th. So that'll be a game that they have after the Texans game. So, those couple games, it's going to be really good for Davante Adams and this Jets offense. Breece Hall, since this coaching change, has been phenomenal. And he's going to continue to be phenomenal. And if they're going to, implement Braylon Allen, they will. But Breece Hall, he looks great from the passing game as well. I think he had a big-time catch outside of 40, 50 yards there in Pittsburgh. So I do have confidence that they are going to take off. Rodgers is going to get it together. He looks great. He has his boy back. So I definitely like Jets starters, their playmakers, to have great games. So definitely Breece Hall is going to have great games this, along the season. Davante Adams, obviously he had 30 yards, but I do think he possibly gets a touchdown this week. And against that Texans secondary in 2 weeks, he's going to have another possibly 100-yard game. And Garrett Wilson, he had a phenomenal game last year against the Texans. So he's still going to, be their number one guy. He, had more yards than Adams this weekend. So a tough matchup in Pittsburgh. They only scored 15 points. However, I'm still impressed with this Jets offense. They still have a lot of talent. They have 2 home games, they have a game in New England. And they have a couple home games after that. And so I do like this Jets offense, despite their record, despite them scoring 50 points. They will take off. It's too dynamic, just not to, Justin.
Yeah, this game that they played against Pittsburgh was really underwhelming. I was expecting a lot more. So I was at first reaction, I was like, man, they're done. Like, this is it. And they might be done as of record wise. Like, I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs with this roster this year. But looking at their schedule, as you mentioned, they don't really play a hard defense the rest of the way, besides maybe Buffalo in Week 17. But New England just got torched by Jacksonville. We've seen Houston struggle, Arizona the same, the Colts especially, Seattle, Miami, Jacksonville, and the Rams. That stretch is crazy good for all Jets players. So I agree with you. I think this offense might take off. Obviously, if you look at it in a different light, it's the first week having a new receiver in your offense, especially one that demands such a high target share. It's hard to kind of transition into more of a balance in the passing game. So obviously that didn't work this week. And Pittsburgh's a very good defense. And the fact that, Russell Wilson came in and started and was able to command the offense in a way, where they were scoring drives and taking good time, and the running game was doing good for Pittsburgh. It made it tough for the Jets. But we'll see. To me, if I do think that they're on a right path, but if the next 2 weeks they struggle still, then I think then I'd be worried. But I agree. I think it's going to start ramping up very shortly. Moving to my last takeaway, I'm going to go that Josh Allen, with this introduction of Amari Cooper via the trade this past week, Josh Allen will return to being the quarterback one on the year. So to me, he's only fighting against one guy, which is Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson has been crazy good in fantasy. Even Baker Mayfield also being crazy in fantasy football this year. So those are the two guys to me he's running up against. And we just, after the first couple of weeks where Josh Allen was bonkers crazy good, especially that first week, now he goes into having an actual star wide receiver one. And I think that it's gonna be a send off point where this team's gonna start doing things that we want to see on the offensive side, and Josh Allen's gonna try to put his name into that MVP conversation. The next the 3 weeks look really great with Seattle, Miami, and Indy. So I think Josh Allen is in line to jump right back up into that star fantasy quarterback range and end as the quarterback one potentially.
Yeah, Justin, I like that a lot. Keon Coleman is kind of starting to take off there. He did have 125 yards there receiving, the rookie there. And Amari Cooper, he is a guy. It's kind of like what they needed there in Buffalo, a number one guy to kind of get defenses away from their other guys. And I think that a guy like Khalil Shakir can benefit from this. This as well from Amari Cooper being there. Khalil did have 7 targets for 7 catches and 65 yards this past weekend. And Dalton Kincaid, who's had a very, I would say, honestly, Justin, a disappointing season. He's been outscored by many, many tight ends. We thought, Justin, you and I, that he was going to kind of take off this year. Still has time too, Justin. And, these pass catcher there, these 4 pass catchers with Keon Coleman, Amari Cooper, Khalil Shakir, and Dalton Kincaid, they're capable of getting Josh Allen these numbers. As well as Josh Allen's rushing ability, didn't have too much this past weekend in Tennessee. But we do like his dump off passes potentially to James Cook and Ray Davis that could be taken in for touchdowns. So now Josh Allen does have the cast to score amount of points because Amari Cooper makes this roster on this depth chart, this offensive starting lineup look better on paper there. So I do like kind of Josh Allen and that Bills offense, heading towards the right way and Josh Allen finishing QB1 could possibly happen, but Justin, my next take might just bury it all because what I saw tonight and what I've seen all year out of Lamar Jackson, the reigning MVP, I've been consistent with this take in the past couple weeks. He is no doubt the MVP of this league, and he is the MVP of fantasy football right now, Justin. And it's so amazing how he's able to do this with no really, stars on this offense. We are seeing Mark Andrews making a comeback. We do see Zay Flowers playing better. He had an underwhelming game. I do think he kind of got nicked up in the second quarter after receiving a handoff. But I do like Rashad Bateman kind of taking off. He had 100 yards. He's been performing well the past couple of weeks. And Lamar Jackson's rushing ability is so elite that anytime he's home, it's always that he's always 50 yards over on rushing. He is the MVP of this league just because of his, the way he's been playing football, the way they started the season. And not only that, they have Derrick Henry to hand it off to, and that makes things so much easier there for Lamar Jackson. And as long as Derrick Henry is drawing all that, attention from defenses, a lot of, stack boxes, that's going to help Lamar tremendously. Mark Andrews is back. Isaiah Likely, who's been quiet, was quiet this week, scored a touchdown last week. He is still going to be in the mix of it. Zay Flowers, if he can get healthy. Rashad Bateman is taking off. And you had all of that with Lamar's rushing ability and who he has in the backfield. This Ravens offense is hot. And Lamar is no doubt going to finish the QB1 week in and week out. He has a nice matchup next week at Cleveland. And he is going to finish QB1 by far. I don't think it'll be close, but I do like Josh Allen kind of finishing second there, Justin.
I mean, you make very solid points, and Lamar has just been phenomenal. 5 touchdowns tonight against the Buccaneers. This offense is clicking like it's crazy. He won the MVP last year and is playing to me, worlds better than he was last year, which is it's crazy to say after winning an MVP. So I mean, I like your take there. It's very it's on the money. You have Derrick Henry, who even caught a receiving touchdown today. So I think Lamar is in line to do so and continue to be super great in fantasy football. And he's not matchup proof, but his schedule is to me. I mean, we talked about it a little bit in the waiver episode. It's not the easiest over the next month or month and a half. We were talking about Rashad Bateman when we were doing so, but it's not the prettiest schedule, but it's Lamar Jackson, and the fact that Andrews is kind of finding himself again, which really is really helpful for Lamar's fantasy value. So I really agree. I like your take there. But yeah, that Dewey Nation, that is our takeaways from Week 7. Put that to use for your Week 8 lineups and for the rest of the season. But yeah, that we have 3 episodes coming out for you guys to discuss info, and then on Wednesday we got a guest coming in to help discuss even more, looking even more into Week 8 with bold predictions, starts of the week, game predictions. So stay tuned for that. Super excited to discuss with my brother here. As always, like, comment, subscribe, share with friends. Let's keep building up Dwayne Sports and Dwayne Nation. So I'm excited. Hopefully you enjoyed this, and send us out.
Yeah, Dewey Nation, thanks for watching, man. These were our takeaways of the week, and this has been such a fun NFL season. Justin and everybody out there in Dewey Nation cannot complain. Excited to keep it rolling, keep it going, and excited to see how we end up the season. But we don't want it to end yet. It's so precious there. So Dewey Nation, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, of course, share it to your uncle, your dad, your grandma. You send it to everybody. Send Dewey Sports out there to everyone and anyone. Thanks for watching. And as always, peace.
Peace.